right, back here on Scoop City. So, Chase, we know besides seeing the debut of all the young rookie quarterbacks and all the new head coaches, there was so much excitement about finally being able to see Tom Brady in the booth in his first year. We know he signed with Fox on that 10-year, $375 million deal.
How much money? Say it again. Say it again.
10 years, $375 million bucks.
$37.5 million. Let's go.
Yeah, it's a good life if you can get it. And if you're Tom Brady, why not, right? And so we thought, why not bring on our senior writer covering sports media? He is hands down the best in the game at covering sports media. Andrew Marchand, thanks for joining Scoop City. It's fun to be here with you. It's football season for us. And we had no plans of really diving into this section because you own the sports media world. You have your own podcast. You're writing about this all the time. But we just thought we'd get your thoughts on what you thought of Tom Brady's debut. So why don't we just start there, Andrew? What'd you think?
I thought he sounded like a rookie. He was a little bit stilted in his, how he spoke, especially at the beginning. But I think it's to be expected. I think a lot of times when we look at, I covered baseball for a long time, so there's always big contracts and big free agents, and kind of when someone has that type of contract, they're never supposed to strike out. They're supposed to hit a home run every single time. They're still human beings. So you could grade Brady on he's the number one analyst. He's got this contract that's close to $400 million. He's the greatest player of all time. And you know what? There's no curve. But I look at it as, it wasn't great, but you're really working towards the Super Bowl. Now, February 9th, Fox, it's a Super Bowl year for Fox. He and Kevin Burkhardt will be in the studio. In the booth. And if he has a performance like yesterday that day, I think I'll write a column that he won't want to put on his refrigerator. But right now, as a rookie, first time out, was it great? No, but it wasn't terrible. Like, if you look at social media, I think it was too much. I think I think you have to be realistic. It's a different muscle, and the one thing I would say is that most players and who get to where Tom Brady got to, they dream about playing in a Super Bowl, not broadcasting a Super Bowl, and so they don't necessarily have that muscle memory that you or I, Diana. I mean, Chase, you're in the different equation here in terms of how we watch a game. So that's something he has to learn, and when to get in, when to get out, and how to get the fundamentals down at the broadcast.
Yeah. I'm glad you because I do watch it from a completely different standpoint than probably a lot of people. So that was going to be my question, because Andrew, broadcasting is subjective, right? Like, I listened to it and I was like, man, this is awesome. Yeah, he was a little nervous at times. Yeah, and that's to be expected. And I read what you wrote. I thought it was pretty fair, to be honest with you. But what separates a good broadcaster from a great broadcaster in your opinion? Because when I'm looking at it, like I was saying, I liked what I was hearing, but what did you judge him on mostly?
Yeah, I would say number one is that you got to bring fans inside what you know and we don't, right? You're going to know, you played in the NFL, right? You know football at a level that I have, no idea. Diana has closer to the knowledge that you have, but it's still different, I would say. She can correct me. As a reporter compared to someone who was, studying the playbook every day. So what I think you want to do is, the example I always use is a 7 route. You should say, he ran a 7 route. It's called a 7 route because it looks like a 7. And that's what we want to know. Now, he had Brady in the first half, second quarter, he had a moment where he said, and I'd never heard this term before, but he said, these are called breather plays, where they had Dak rolling out and trying to get away from Myles Garrett. And so, he could have done a little bit more there, but that was something that I thought was really good, because I've never heard the term breather plays. It makes sense. Yep. It's inside, but you have to be able to tell it in a simple way. So, you can't just get too nuanced in terms of terminology, but something complicated, make it simple, do it quick.
So something that I think is really interesting in regards to Tom Brady, because he's involved with potentially owning a percentage of the Las Vegas Raiders, the league made a decision that he cannot be part of production meetings. And I've sat in production meetings before, and I know the value of them. I understand them. 90% of what you talk about in production meetings actually never really gets on the air. It's really to just try to understand philosophy. And in some cases, decision making on why teams are doing certain things, and of course to get to know players specifically, and even get to know new coaches if you're unfamiliar with them. So it's valuable access that you're getting on a broadcast team. He's not getting it. How do you think that this affected his first performance?
Yeah, I don't think it does, personally. Two things. If Tom Brady, Chase, you can answer this for me. If you're starting for Denver and he texted you during the week and said, hey, you got 5 minutes to get on the phone with me, I got a feeling you're going to text
I'm getting on.
Exactly. So I think he can...
right away.
So I think he has access that way. Number two, could he be asking questions that are good questions, and would the coaches and players say more if he was in there? Yes. You know, they're going to say more to Tom Brady than they are to Kevin Burkhardt or Aaron Andrews, or Tom Rinaldi. That said, those guys can come back and talk to Tom and say this is what they said in the production meeting. So I think that's slightly overrated in terms of, and you even mentioned that 9 out of 10 times you're not going to use the stuff that they say in there. So I don't think that really hurts them. And if I would make the argument probably, and I get it, I mean, NFL, so, they're pretty heavy-handed, so they have to, put their 2 cents in on everything. But the reasoning for them to do that, there's rules with ownership, etc. So I can maybe understand that. But I would say the players and coaches are going to be more disappointed not to talk to Tom Brady than it's going to hurt his broadcast. Like, I think those guys would want to talk to. They don't want to talk to most of us. They'd want to talk to Tom Brady if they get the chance.
That's so good. Yeah. So take us inside to what you're like, because you've done this for a long time at the Post, at ESPN, now with the Athletic, and you have your own. I mean, you're everywhere, man. And your hashtag, I think, is awesome. It's like everyone wants to cover sports media. It's like sometimes I try to give my 2 cents. And I'm like, wait, I don't want to get hashtagged. Okay, so I don't want to do it. So I want to ask you what your hopes are for what Brady can become, because this is game one. Where do you see this going the rest of the season, concluding with the Super Bowl in New Orleans, which Fox has?
I think it's going to come down to, can he be himself? And is there a guy who's just a regular dude? Now, he seems beloved by all his ex-teammates, by players around the league. I did a story for The Athletic about his preparation. So, I had a lot of sourcing in there in terms of, and to a person, they all love Tom Brady and only could say what a great teammate he is, how hard he's working. So all those things can be true. That said, he does not live a normal life. He can't live a normal life. He's probably in the top 10 most famous people, at least in the United States, maybe the world. So can he be relatable? Like, I thought there were some opportunities, that, especially with Kevin Burkhardt, who's excellent, who's a good team guy, who's going to try to make him better, where he could have been a little more relatable. And that's where you get into, is that in him to be kind of that relaxed, in the booth, I'm enjoying the game. Now, I think some people said, like, he didn't come across passionate about football. I disagree. Like, I think you felt that. It just wasn't, like, you could hear him in the background when Burkhardt was calling some touchdowns. He's like, oh. And it's like, which is kind of cool because Tom Brady, it's not exactly fundamentally you want to lay out there and then say it after. And he'll do that. But I do think he's enthusiastic about the game. But it's that you can't be thinking about it. Even, doing games is the hardest thing you could probably do in terms of football broadcasting. But even here, you guys, we're all like talking now, but we're thinking about what we're going to say next, right? And so it needs to be not what Burkhardt tees him up for, more of like what he sees and then says it and says it simply, yes. And so that's what you'll look to see.
I think that's the challenge too, right? It's also a muscle that you have and that you've built all these years. He spent 20 years or so being told don't share, especially in New England, right? All his press conferences, and I've covered so many of them, it was all about saying less, say little, share nothing. So now you're in a space where you're being asked to reveal all. So I just think the potential is there. I think by Halloween, he's going to be fabulous. I just think he has to just get used to with, tell us, explain this, take us inside. Chase, really a lot of the stuff that you and I talk about as friends of trying to improve our podcast, and because it's not natural for you. It is not natural for an athlete to be revealing. So I think once you get past that hump, that's where all the good stuff is. And that's why you see a lot of older players or players that haven't been on the field for some time shift into that next category of being elite at it, because they're more comfortable and detached from playing the game.
Yeah, and I would say if you say who's the best, and he's not a game, but like Charles Barkley is the best, in terms of, like I had a big discussion with Boomer Esiason a couple months back about, and I told Boomer like he'd be on the list if you did of great playing careers / broadcasting careers. So I'm combining your, how great a player you are and so Boomer's had a very long broadcasting career, big time talk show host in New York, CBS, did a Super Bowl on TV, did a million on radio, and then, was an all-pro quarterback. You look at Brady, he could he's obviously the greatest, considered the greatest player of all time. Now you go into the booth, how much does he want to say? I will tell you, if you ask me what's the biggest red flag, I'd say the biggest red flag that I saw this weekend were on the set pieces. He was on the halftime of Texas-Michigan with Joel Klatt. Didn't really say much. He was on the pregame. Didn't really say much. And those are easier formats because you're told the questions, you go over what you're going to say, and he was a little bit, like you just said, Diana, a little player speak, as opposed to, you got to think like a media member. We're looking at the game differently than how you look at the game. It's like a totally different mentality of an athlete as compared to an analyst or a reporter. And so that's what he's got to learn.
Those set pieces are harder than you think, though, right?
Yeah.
Like when you know
the studio part,
even when you know it, it's still difficult because I do think a lot of inexperienced people memorize. And I will bet you they went through it with him and he was memorizing. And then when you memorize, you come off robotic. Yeah. So, look, the growth is there. I think we all know this. Those set pieces will be part of his career. But truly what we're going to judge him on is what he's doing in that booth.
100%.
I have 2 questions, and I know you're not supposed to do this, Andrew, but you cover sports media, so I'm going to ask you 2 questions. I know you can handle it.
Okay.
The first one is, why is Tom Brady doing this? He has all the money in the world, regardless of the money, right? Like, he's a 10% owner of the Raiders. Why is he deciding? Because I want everyone to understand how insanely crazy the preparation is for calling a game. Brady has everything. Why is he doing this?
I mean, you took money off the table. I do think, and I was told this, like I was the one who reported the 10-year, $375 million contract, and one of the people who I was speaking to then about, when I reported that, it kept going higher and higher. And so I think you have to start with that. Like I again, we can talk about videos and look, Fox did do a good job because the one thing that's misunderstood, and I think this was misunderstood in ESPN's pursuit of Peyton Manning for years, even though they ended up getting him by letting him do whatever he wants. So I'm going to contradict myself slightly. But most quarterbacks, most players want to plan. What are you going to do for the 6 days to get me ready for day 7 and then I'm going to perform? And I think Fox did a good job of convincing Brady that, you know what, this is how we're going to prepare you. This is our success. At that point, they couldn't point to Greg Olson's success, but now you can in terms of how they got him ready. So I think that's one thing. But ultimately, I think, and this is why, like, you always still hear, could he come back to play? It's hard to replace playing. There's just nothing like it that you can do in your post-playing career. Maybe coach is the closest thing, but that competitive edge. And you hit on it early, and this is the problem for Brady. It's subjective, right? And so getting off to a slow start is not great. I mean, what helped Tony Romo a lot, he started really strong, and people loved him right away, and so then you're working from there. Now he's working a little uphill. The one thing I would say, and I wrote this in the column, I think, you go on social media and you kind of feel like that might be reality, and I don't really think that's reality. Yes, for the diehards, the people are talking about on podcasts like us, we're focused on it. But the average person might have heard, oh, Brady wasn't that great. Okay, they'll give him a chance. February 9th, Super Bowl, New Orleans, where he had his first Super Bowl 2002 as a player. He's going to be in the booth. He needs to be ready for that. Because if he's still sounding like he did the other day, they have a problem.
So my second question is his head coach, Bill Belichick. Why is he everywhere? Why is he deciding to do every little possible thing? Is it a image makeover? Is it because he really loves it that much? Do you see him going back into coaching, or is he getting paid an absurd amount of money to do what he's doing?
Well, Chase, hopefully you'll like this, because I'm not going to say who, but somebody in the business texted me and said, who knew that Bill Belichick post-coaching was going to be Chase Daniel in terms of having a million gigs?
This has been the best guest appearance we have ever had. Andrew, I
made it in the
love
same sentence as Bill Belichick. Yeah. Amazing.
There's only one person thirstier than Chase Daniel, and it is Bill Belichick.
It worked. I got a job with Fox. It worked.
So, yeah, he's doing a lot. Like, look, I think what happens is they start sending these checks to you, and they add up to 7 figures, and then you get another one, and you get another one, and you get another one, and it's like, oh, and all I have to do is talk for a couple, once a week. You're working. I think you're working hard, and he is. So, yeah, I think that's what happens. I think that he's getting paid a lot of money, and he's showing his personality a little. It's kind of, I find him interesting because I'd say he's showing his personality, but he's sort of like himself, and then everyone around him. He's around McAfee. He'll be around the Mannings, and they kind of show their personalities, and he's still him. Kind of have that curmudgeon old guy. But he does have a lot of football knowledge, and you do care what he says. When we talk about Brady, Belichick has shown a little bit more. Studio's a little bit easier. You just want to bring us places that we can't go. That's like our job as reporters, and as analysts, it's your job. Show me things I can't see.
I definitely think this whole media tour that he's doing is absolutely fascinating. And Chase and I have talked about this, and I actually do think this is why Chase likes the media as well. This person close to Bill said he wants to contribute because he loves the game so much. He almost doesn't know what to do with free time. So he's looking at it as, I might as well just go do this. It keeps me in the game. It keeps me part of it. And so from that side of it, it works, and it sure doesn't hurt that he's making a lot of money.
100%. And he probably doesn't have a lot of hobbies. Like, that's the thing. I mean, he's been coaching football,
It's football. Football's his hobby.
His hobby's football.
Kids
so
are
what else
grown.
do?
Yeah, it's true. I know that Chase mentioned before that, you don't want to get hashtagged by you. You don't. It's just like it's almost like the big block when you're in the media. You hashtagged me though. You did it to me on Friday. So I
you
tweeted.
Got hashtag?
I did. You didn't see it? Andrew came on. What? I was like, man. So
what did you say?
Chase,
was it the Philly Wives thing? Was it the Philly Wives
Chase,
thing?
did you see that story?
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, that was good.
So Zach Berman had his wife back in Philadelphia tweeting for him, and she became this just aggressive, competitive reporter through the 3 days of doing it. And I just loved her story because it was so funny to me that she was so into it. So then I saw that you gave me a little, everyone wants to cover this.
Well, and also, for the record, that it is done in fun, because the point is 2 things. Is that, like, I covered media, went to ESPN. I've always wanted to get back to media, did get back with the Post, now with the Athletic. But trying to convince people that, hey, this is going to be something people are going to really like was harder. So that's like a little inside joke for me. But the other point is that I've done it to LeBron James. And everyone has an opinion on sports media, and they just don't know how much they like it. Everyone is talking about it. So it's sort of, and that's... Yeah, Schefter, I get a lot. I get Schefter.
Earn your turf, though. Like, you're protecting your turf. You should.
Yes.
Because you already mentioned me before we let you go. Before this is going to be fun.
Oh God.
Diana has no clue I'm going to do this. Before we let you go, you mentioned me in the same sentence as Bill Belichick. Life complete. Mm-hmm. Have you watched any of my stuff? And what critique, if you're doing an on-air critique, what would you critique me at? What do I need to be better at, Andrew? Give it to me.
This is why I love him. He wants to be coached.
Don't hold back.
He wants to be coached.
See,
yeah, Brady
serious.
wants to be coached too. No, I think you're doing good work, man. You keep getting gigs. Look, I think the most important thing, and you're doing this right, you want to be your authentic self, especially in this format. Like, I think that's what people like. That's what they're drawn to. And like, getting back to full circle, I know Chase, I feel it. You like to make it about Chase. Is that true, Diana?
No. Chase is
not
at all. Chase is
very...
Chase is really... He's a backup quarterback, right? So he has that mentality.
I'm a giver.
All right, well, you asked about Chase, so I thought maybe... All right, well, the point is that, like, the point I would make, though, is getting back to, it's kind of similar to Brady. I just think that's what people want. You guys have experience that we don't, and being able to share that is really the key. So that would be my 2 cents, and you're doing it.
Yeah, I like it. Thank you.
Just look at that stamp of approval from Andrew Marchand. Take that one, man. I would. Put that in your Twitter bio. Tweet it, actually, right now. I'm sure you already did.
Tweet that thing.
All right, Andrew. Thank you so much. We value your opinion, your thoughts. This was fun. Let's have you on again. You are a resident of Scoop City. Welcome.
Let's go.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Right. Thanks. Thanks for tuning into Scoop City. If you want to hear more, make sure you like and subscribe. We drop our new episodes every Tuesday and Friday.